Okay, welcome back everybody to some Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. It's really hot today, and I've got a chest infection, I think, so I'm not doing so great. But, you know, it's been a while since we've done this video, this series, and I was thinking of trying to finish it, you know, at some point. I don't really have a... Oop, that's not what I wanted. I don't really have, like, a super, like, specified goal for this. I don't think I'm going to finish this before the end of the year. So I'll just finish it whenever I can. A couple of announcements before. I apologize for those of you that are watching this way later and not really paying attention, but I doubt that's going to happen. I won't be recording for the duration of the tournament, mostly because I don't really want to this time around. It's too much of a strain on the channel, and you know, I don't really care that much anyway, so it's like whatever. Most of the time the tournament videos don't do amazingly, so I'm like, I'll just let it die. I'll just let that stuff go unknown. If there's something like exceptional, I might consider recording it, but I'm not gonna really try too hard. I don't think anyone really wants to watch that anyway. It's mostly just filler until the channel comes back, but you know, we're not in the most prolific shape right now, so I'll have to be figuring out what we need to do eventually at some point. Anyway, a bit of rambling from myself. So today we're going to talk about the two Lair branches, and in general all 4 Lair branches, just to start, because that's kind of important for a mage. So the 4 branches in Lair, not including Slime, which shouldn't be your second, any of your 1 or 2 runes, are Snake, Swamp, Shoals, and Spider. Snake and Spider will spawn independently of one another, so if you have Snake, you can't have Spider, and Swamp will spawn independently of Shoals. So if you have Swamp, you can't have Shoals. So we're pretty lucky today. We didn't get Shoals, and we didn't get Spider, which are kind of tough. But generally speaking, for a melee character, the usual plan is go to Spider, and then Swamp, if you're a melee with no axe. No. So Swamp and Spider tend to be the first ones you do, almost all the time. The next one after that would be Snake, and then the next one after that would be Shoals. Shoals being the last, because it's the worst one for a mage. The strategy is the path is mostly the same for a mage. Shoals tends to be the last one, and Snake tends to be the second last one. But the only difference is sometimes Spider is a lot more difficult than normal because of the whole Ghost Moth situation. You need to have some kind of answer to it in some way. Ghost Moths being those little drainy boys, those invisible guys that drain you and your mana and your stats if they touch you. And they're actually poisonous and quite dangerous to fight. But generally for a mage, Snake and Shoals tend to be a little bit... No, sorry. Shoals tends to be a little easier for a mage, and Snake tends to be a little bit harder, just because a lot of enemies are really tough to kill. They're pretty heavily armored, and they have a lot of health, so it's sometimes kind of hard to kill them. Not always, though. It's not that bad to play against Snake, but I think in the 2-rune area, at least, mages tend to have a pretty decent time. Most of the spells that they have at this level are more than enough to take on Swamp and Snake, whereas with a melee character, with Swamp you're dealing with all the water, Shoals the same thing. Snake, you're usually okay, and Spider you have to be careful of like limiting the amount of people you're fighting. A lot of the ideas are the same for mage, like I said, but in this case specifically, it's mages have a little bit easier time because they're ranged, not melee, and also water doesn't really encumber them quite as much as melee, where you get an accuracy malus compared to mage, which only has the movement speed penalty. So having said all that, Swamp will be our first branch. Swamp is the area filled with water. A lot of the enemies here are fairly straightforward to kill because they have very low ways of protecting themselves from all the good stuff we have. A lot of these enemies are also fairly cold-blooded, meaning Freezing Cloud and Ice Bolt are going to be amazing. Also, we have Poison Arrow for anyone who is at full screen. The only issues that we have are potentially getting, cornered or something. Also, keep in mind that the interaction between the water and us, and our cold spells, the Freezing Cloud, is going to be quite helpful in this area, as it'll create a mini ice cloud everywhere we fire, if it's on water. Poison Cloud will probably be the thing that we use the most to kill Poison arrow will probably be the thing we use the most to kill enemies, but we can't be too cocky because there are a lot of enemies that are poison resistant here, meaning that our poison arrow, which is our quote-unquote off element spell, will be a little bit less effective. Again, the same strategy applies. I don't want to fireball at all. I had to take a quick turn in melee with that guy, just because if I didn't, I probably would have gotten killed. I'm going to pull back here and just start sticky flaming stuff. This is a pretty effective way of just dealing with a couple of enemies at the same time, because it's as mana efficient as we can get. I'm just going to sticky flame again. The Swamp Dragon armor here is actually very helpful because it stops enemies from poisoning us, which is pretty common in Swamp. You do see Swamp Dragons that fire poisonous clouds, and you do see these little Swamp Drakes that fire Mephitic Cloud. But generally, like as you can see here, Poison Arrow is not incredibly good in this spot. Poison Arrow tends to do a lot better in Spider and Shoals, but that's like irrelevant. Since we're at full screen here, I'm going to just fire an Orb of Destruction or two. I'm going to walk backwards because my undead are in the way. I can heal up again. So the strategy still remains the same, mostly. Stick to the known as much as you can. Try to explore in kind of concentric circles if you can. Pull towards the known and then rest between every fight. Just make sure that your character is basically in optimal fighting shape. It's exactly the same principle as with melee fighters. It's just that we're mage now. It's very similar. So against enemies like bog bodies and hydras and such, our poison arrow is not very effective. However, as you can see, against things like like tyrant leeches, are they called? What are they called again? Yeah, tyrant leeches. Against things like tyrant leeches, they're very effective. It's a very effective tool, the poison arrow. I'm gonna pull upstairs here, recover my mana. I could also have waited downstairs, but something like this could have happened, where I got surrounded at low mana. So me pulling upstairs just lets me quickly and easily return to max fighting power. So the alligators actually speed up over time, or they have short bursts of speed, meaning they should probably be taken out pretty quickly. Thankfully they are cold-blooded, so Freezing Cloud is able to slow them down really easily, and makes the fight pretty much non-trivial. I actually moved the wrong way there. I didn't realize that I was standing on shallow water, not deep water, for some reason. Okay, anyway, continuing on, exploring out in small little portions here, ensuring that I never really step too far out of bounds. I'm gonna Fireball here just quickly. Fireball will also have the side benefit. Oh no. So I'm at low MP, I'm rooted, and I also have some issues with the Shambling Mangrove, as he is quite a tough enemy. I'm gonna try to run for it. That should be okay, because now I can go downstairs again when he's in melee with me. I can pull upstairs and I can blink, and that allows me to effectively reset the fight. I am in a little bit of trouble because of the fact that the Shambling Mangrove... Sorry, the fact that the Hornets spawn from the Shambling Mangrove, and also there's a Swamp Worm behind me, but Fireball mostly takes care of these Hornets, and then Sticky Flame takes care of the Swamp Worm. Yeah. I just need to make sure not to allow him to walk into the water, because if an enemy that walks into water is sticky flamed, it puts the sticky flame out. So I just made sure there to kind of manipulate. All right, he just spawned out of completely nowhere. Interesting. There's a teleport trap on this floor that was triggered by this Spriggan Elementalist or Spriggan Shaman or whatever he is. So I just had to quickly kill him. So there you saw me just cast Sticky Flame and it didn't work. It applied the initial tick of damage, but instantly got put out, which is fine. Alright, returning to rest. Enchant weapon scrolls, probably not useful in this character at this point. Identify scrolls, we actually don't have anything to identify. I'm going to go ahead and enchant the Swamp Dragon armor. It's somewhat likely that we end up using this as our main tool. So I thought I heard something. So I'm not going to be too hesitant to upgrade it. Alright, at this point, I'm going to try putting the shield on, just to see what changes. Poison Arrow goes to 11%, Freezing Cloud to 5%, and Orb of Destruction to 8%. Okay, so I'm not too scared. Like, if you look at how much shield I get, I actually get 2 shields from this. I might get more if I train more shields, but it might not be worth it for me to bother training for shields at this point in time. I'm possibly better off just going for more conjurations, more poison magic, and so on. I think once poison magic hits 5, yep, I knew my own self. Once it gets to 5, it'll be turned off, so I can put some conjurations magic in. Conjurations magic is something that surprisingly you don't need to max out. You don't need 27 conjuration, nor do you need 27 spellcasting to win the game. About 18 to 20 is usually more than enough, but it depends on what you're going for again. This run is going to be a... Oh, hang on. Is my audio bad? Alright, it's kind of good. I hope it's good. Like, I bumped the gain up a little bit because some people are saying it's too quiet, but I haven't exactly mastered it yet. Alright, spectral crabs, ghost crabs are a little bit of a pain. They bypass most of our abilities that can kill it, because it is resistant to cold, being an undead. I think it is anyway. Oh, it's not. Okay, never mind. I can just ice bolt it. The thing is, it summoned so many guys in the first instance that the ice bolt would have not reached it, because it pierced so many spectral things. So I had to reset the fight by going upstairs, waiting out the spooky flames, and then continuing on with a reset fight. Again, resetting is like pretty intrinsic to the Mage gameplay. If you're not resetting fights every 10 seconds, you're probably not doing it right. So just keep that in mind when you're playing. Okay, unfortunately I have to take some melee with this Hydra, but at this point with 19 AC, 14 evade, and 100 health, we're most likely able to survive a fair amount of turns with a Hydra. Not an incredible amount, but certainly enough that I can get maybe 1 or 2 spellcasts off, maybe blink if I need to, and then just continue on with my merry way. I don't have any spells here that can kill that large slime creature for more than 6 mana. Sorry, for less than 5 mana, without putting the ice cloud out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just conjure a flame here, and I'm just gonna wait it out. There we go. Again, waiting in melee is a really risky tactic, and it's not incredibly efficient either. I just did it because I knew that I could definitely survive that. But again, if you guys aren't sure with the strength of your character at the time, just please play it safe and just go back. It's much simpler, and it may be more of a hassle, but at this point, if you are trying to win your first mage, you should err on the side of caution rather than just, going willy-nilly. I'm going to have to just blink here, ice bolt here, because it's a really great, that was a really good shot, like just a really nice lineup. Alright, Bahamut's given us access to Iron Shot, and ordinarily I would pick it up. I am hesitant to do so here because I already have Poison Arrow, which is effectively the same thing as Iron Shot, unless the enemy is immune to poison, but it's also slightly more accurate and longer range, and it has other upsides. Iron Shot tends to be the least mana efficient spell in the game because it misses so goddamn often. I actually hate it for that very reason. But again, I just want to note that for other players with different situations, because of course I cannot possibly fathom how many different scenarios that a new mage player will get into, because that's the nature of this game. You may want to pick Iron Shot up a lot of the time. But in this case specifically, I am slightly hesitant to do so because I already have a spell that covers that same slot. Again, thinking about how to be efficient with this. Note that I have an Amnesia Scroll, and Throw Flame is completely worthless. It's worth 2 spell levels. I could Amnesia this to get Earthshot, but I'd rather wait. I might end up Amnesiaing something like Sticky Flame or, Freezing Cloud somehow. I doubt it though, to get more spell slots than just 2. It might not be as important. And again, eventually I might find Iron Shot, and eventually I might pick it up. But for the time being, I think it's more efficient for me to just stick with Poison Arrow. And this kind of, I guess, trigger discipline, I suppose, is the best way you could say it, is something that's kind of important if you want to optimize your mage loadout. Because oftentimes you'll find a cool spell and you'll be like, I really want to try it. That's fine and all, but just keep in mind that whatever you are training, whatever you are picking up that's like not a recommended spell, will come directly out of your power as a mage, unless you're able to find some really decent like utility for it. An example might be, Lightning Bolt, for example. If you have Lightning Bolt as a bolt spell and you level it up, it's 5 spell levels. I'm pretty sure. It's not as good as the other ones, as the other bolt spells, because while it is full screen at high spell power, it is very inaccurate, and it is also very loud. So you may end up realizing that it's not very good. And if you do pick up that bolt spell, you should avoid picking up another bolt spell, because that'd be kind of a waste. All right, I had a fairly straightforward combat scenario there while I was talking. It was just me avoiding melee as much as I could. I knew the Tyrant Leech was not immune to poison. I just shot him with the poison arrow, walked back a couple of turns. Made a couple of mistakes there, I think. I should have just kept walking, but I'm hesitant to go into water because a lot of the enemies in here, including Tyrant Leeches, Hydras, and swamp worms, and alligators, I believe they all swim faster in water than they are on land. So, and I'd be slower. So if I kept walking back, I'd take more hits than I needed to. So I just kind of stood my ground there. I'm going to turn Conjurations on because I kind of want that. Again, note how that my fighting and spellcasting are pretty much on the entire time. This is fairly normal for a character. A lot of the time you'll end up with quite a bit of fighting and quite a bit of spellcasting. It's not uncommon to have 22 to 24 spellcasting, or have your spellcasting as one of your higher, if not the highest, skill. But again, fighting will be really important. You'll note that if you look at any of my tournament runs, any of Man's tournament runs, because he actually made a point to mention that as well to me, you'll actually see that a lot of the time we have Slayer, the 22 fighting, as your highest skill milestone, as a lot of our mages, just because it's very important to have more health. Maybe not on deep elves necessarily, but oftentimes, yes, you actually will end up with that much fighting. In this case here, I don't actually have a spell that deals with all of these guys in a line AoE. These guys are actually very resistant to fire and cold, meaning I'm not going to be doing much damage. I think instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to Acid Wand a couple of times. This is going to help me conserve my mana, and it also kills these guys pretty easily. And then I'm going to start backing off now. The only reason why I considered that option in that case was because those enemies were lined up so perfectly that I needed to kill, I wanted to kill all of them at once. It would be extremely inefficient to go and hit them all with poison arrows or whatever, to which they are immune to, so that I'd only be doing that tiny amount of damage, just to kill, a bunch of regular weak-ish wisps. Generally, a sidearm, such as, a dagger or something, could handle that kind of thing, but in this instance here, I don't want to go too much into fighting, into weapons, because the Deep Elf is not incredibly useful with a weapon at all. Short blades and staves really, and maybe long blades being really the only things that you can kind of use with a Deep Elf. And I'm not really too, like I said, this is a mage tutorial. I'm trying to show you guys the magic and also show that pure mage is completely viable. You don't need a weapon. Unlike range, I would say that range is not purely viable. You can't be pure range. You have to have some kind of sidearm, but people would disagree. Those people are usually wrong, so I wouldn't put too much faith in what they say. All right, I'm gonna Freezing Cloud again here. This is just a pack of regular 10-speed-ish enemies. The white ugly things are immune to poison. Oh, sorry, they're resistant to cold. They have 1 pip of RC. So I started firing some extra bolts of cold. Sorry, some extra poison arrows their way, just to kind of show them what's up. I make sure to butcher these ugly skeletons, even though I can't eat their chunks, just because I want more allies. They'll disappear eventually, so they're just kind of here as insurance for the time being. These guys are actually fairly good as skeletons. You can see them making decently good progress on killing these slimes. They also interfere with slime movement, meaning they are very unlikely to merge by just grouping up into a single kill hole. Alright, we're doing very well so far. I don't think there's any real issues with this character. I'm going to drop these Scrolls of Holy Word. They're really not useful. They might be useful in the next floor, actually. I'm going to hold it for one more floor. There's one specific Swamp Vault that maybe might need the Scrolls of Holy Word. I don't know yet. And even then, it'd probably be extraneous, but that's fine. So Swamp floor, of course, as with all Vault floors, is the last floor of Swamp, and in it will be a rune. I will also get a guaranteed one of several predetermined vaults in Swamp 4 that will hold the rune. You'll never just find it lying on the ground somewhere. I will say this much at least. Swamp 4 is almost always going to be just a massive heap of dudes just kind of rushing you. You're expecting to fight swamp dragons, hydras, thorn hunters, and all those other good enemies in spades. You're effectively doing an easier version of vaults, if you will. It's somewhat similar to Snake, where you have that same experience where just 100 guys are at just fighting you. That's kind of how it works. So knowing all this, I'm going to be pretty careful about how I explore into the unknown. Ideally, I see the very, very, very edge of the area of the vault, and then I slowly lure one by one enemies. And that means that effectively by the time I get to the area itself, I don't have to do anything. It just automatically lets me get in because there's no enemies left to fight. That's not always going to happen, but this specific setup here where I have multiple stairs here and there's nothing that can come behind me, it actually is possible that this could happen, depending on how I did things. Now, the Orb of Destruction that I just cast did a fairly good amount of, made a fairly good amount of noise, meaning that a lot of these enemies now will come pouring out of the woodworks, hopefully. Alright, there's a lot of undead here, so maybe that Scroll of Holy Word might come in handy. Alright, as you can see, I'm absolutely abysmal at dealing with enemies that are in water and resistant to all my cold stuff. Which is, again, why I much prefer Bolt of Fire. It's a lot more versatile for some reason. The only enemies that you can't kill with Bolt of Fire, you will generally always be killing with Orb of Destruction, so it's kind of straightforward to handle. Whereas here, I have to kind of use Fireball, which creates a lot of noise, or I can use Sticky Flame and just kind of stand here and do nothing while I wait, take a lot of melee damage. It's pretty clear, I guess. I hope it's clear at this point that fire is superior to ice. I know that sounds stupid. I know that's like, oh, you just prefer it. No, it's actually like almost significantly, it's almost objectively better in every way. The fire tree just tends to be better than the ice tree. The only exception would probably be Freezing Cloud, to which there is no real counterpart in fire. Everything else pretty much is the same. Ice magic tends to be a lot less offensive based, whereas fire magic is just amazing at dealing with a lot of different tools. And there's Bolt of Fire. Hell yeah. Alright, we are forgetting this piece of garbage Bolt of Cold. Get that out of my face. We're getting Bolt of Fire. Hell yeah. This is why I love the Humid sometimes. So, Bolt of Fire is exactly the same as Bolt of Cold, but it's fire-based and it's full screen. Look at that. Look at that range. Look at that disgusting range. That means that it beats Poison Arrow in almost every circumstance, except for when we want to poison now. That's how good it is. It's just so damn strong. See, if you circle jerk enough about Bolt of Fire, eventually for him it's like, ah, fine, you can have it. This means that we don't have to worry about undead anymore, and generally we can just Orb of Destruction, Bolt of Fire the rest of the game away. Yep, so this is exactly the vault I was talking about. There are going to be a lot of undead in this area, which means I'm quite happy to have the Scroll of Holy Word. These poison miasma clouds are very dangerous, and I absolutely have to be afraid of them. I have been sickened, slowed, and poisoned. I need to teleport out of this, I think. This looks stupid, but I've actually put myself in a very bad spot already. Okay, there we go. Jeez. I'm gonna pull upstairs. Pull to the upstairs, and then just run. This is the unfortunate thing about having low health and low everything. Against cloud spells that you have no resistance to, it can be very painful to fight, to walk through these kind of areas. However, with the power of Bolt of Fire, we're able to just kind of blast away. And better, not only that, we also create a smoke screen without ultimate, like, offense spell. That's pretty ridiculous if you think about it. This is such a damn good spell. I love Bolt of Fire. Bolt of Fire is probably my favorite spell in the game. Ah, maybe Repel Missiles is, but that got removed, I suppose. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to shout at the edge of this vault, and I'm going to try to draw people out. And we're just going to kind of camp out here, and they're just kind of spawn camp everything that comes out. With Bolts of Fire, Orbs of Destruction, all that good stuff. And the reason why I want to do that is because, as you can see, once I engage into that area with the miasmic clouds, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So I'm just going to throw fireballs here, just see what pops up, kind of. Probably use more fireballs just to kill this guy. Back off for a sec. It's fine. Throw another fireball. I know there's at least one bone dragon in that vault, so until I see that bone dragon, I'm gonna keep doing this. Ideally, I just kind of throw him out of the... he comes out of the vault by himself and I just kill him. Alright, I'm gonna just switch the sling for like 1 second to kill that enemy. I guess I can just do that for this guy as well. Like, that is the most annoying way to kill an opponent. Just using this random sidearm that we had for like the entire time. But that's alright. Alright, switching back. I think at this point the Staff of Power is mostly moot. We have 39 MP, which is a lot already. And we're casting spells at this point that are fairly hungry. Not too bad, actually. Orbit Destruction's already down to 4 pips. The reason why that's so good is because of the... that's as good as it is mostly because of the 30 int that we have and 17 spellcasting, which is not ordinary for this character. Not ordinary for mages, mind you. Only ordinary for a deep elf. Deep elves are incredibly fast learners, and they're just really damn good at being mages. Because they almost come with an intrinsic Staff of Energy. It's very slow to come up, but it's very good. Again, Spell Hunger is the main reason why I chose to not pick Draconian over Deep Elf. Deep Elf is just so much better for that. They don't have to worry about Spell Hunger as much. They don't have to worry about spell levels as much. It's just a lot easier, I guess, to consider playing a Deep Elf than a Draconian. Depends really on what you're good or bad at. If you're good at surviving, then Deep Elf is much better. But if you're really bad at surviving, then you might want to play Draconian. But you will have other problems. Okay, I don't know where the hell this Bone Dragon is, so I'm just going to keep kind of firing into the general area, hoping that... There we go, the Bone Dragon's here. I'm going to pull back here, just to get a little bit more MP. I know the Bone Dragon's around here somewhere now, so I can kind of just throw a fireball. There we go, wake him up. Throw some Orbs of Destruction. Again, notice how quickly and easily that this guy gets destroyed. He doesn't even get into melee with me before he's dead. Very simple. Now that most of the threat's being neutralized, I'm going to try... Oh, that was not what I wanted to do. I'm just going to jump into this area. It's mostly a pattern-based thing. I'm not very good at dealing with the pattern, but I'll try to get out of the way of the miasmic clouds first. And then I'll just pull into here, grab all this loot. See, these areas are supposed to be full of undead, but I just kind of bypassed it all by not worrying about it. Check out what these gloves are. Curse nothing. That's fine. Go ahead and drop those. And we'll just apport those... the rune and the potion, rather than dealing with that miasmic cloud over there. I'm also going to waste 1 teleport, waste 2 teleports. There we go. Just to get out of those miasmic clouds. It's kind of annoying to go back. I could have easily done it, but, you know. Sometimes I just don't like getting rotted, and I only have 4 potions of curing left, so I might need those to cure my poison rather than rot. Alright, well, that's going to leave it for today. I'm going to let you guys go. The spells that we've picked up are mostly optimal now. This is like almost all the good spells that we have in the game, like that we need. We've got enough damage now to win the game. Like that's the weapon. Like this is the equivalent of getting the battle axe full execution. That's way more than enough to win the game. It's easily enough to win the game. It's just a matter of now surviving long enough to get through the rest of this game and effectively just, you know, managing our resources and managing our mana effectively to eke out the most efficient stuff we can. I'm going to stick with the Staff of Energy because it looks like our food is kind of dropping low, surprisingly. Again, I'm really not too happy with this new comestibles deal where all the rations got changed. Mostly because it feels like I have less food than I usually would. And I hate feeling like I don't have enough food. Like, legitimately, it's the worst thing in the world, and it's the main reason why I don't like playing Mage. Because Mage is tedious, and it requires you to manage your food, which is really frustrating. But, yeah, like, this new ration thing seems to be making it slightly worse, so I'm kind of worried. Again, I haven't played too many games, not enough to really say one way or another whether or not it's enough food. But it's starting to feel like there might not be enough food. So I'm getting a bit worried. Because this is less than 12 rations. Like 12 of the old rations. This is like 9, I think. It's almost 40% less, I believe, nutrition. So this is almost like 7 or 8. Actually, probably more like 8, yeah. Yeah, maybe like 8, I'd say. So it's a little bit scary that we're going this far down, and we're only at Lair, where we should have a lot of food. So we'll have to see how this goes. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I will see you all whenever I see you, because again, my uploading schedule might not be good. My chest infection has made it really hard to talk. I kind of tore my own throat out before I started recording so that I could talk, but I can actually I can feel like the build up in my throat again, so I'm not feeling so great. Anyway, thanks for watching. I will see you all next time.